Hola Paraguay, yo soy Alan Medina. Bienvenidos a los estudios de The Walt Disney Animation desde Burbank, California. Primeramente quiero agradecer a todas las personas que hicieron posible que hoy esté yo aquí, Filmagic Paraguay y Unicanal. Ahora les invito a conocer a los creadores, directores, productores y animadores de esta fantástica película musical. Frozen 2 vuelve después de 6 años de ausencia. Así que acompáñenme a conocer este fantástico mundo.
Lejos de aquí, lo más al norte que se puede ir, existió un bosque encantado.
¿Has visto un bosque encantado?
Ahora me encuentro con los productores y creadores de esta fantástica película. Hello, how are you?
Hi,
Chris, the director, Jennifer, the writer and co-director, and Peter, the producer. The big question is why we wait 6 years to have this movie?
Well, you know, I think for us, it took us about a year to decide or to come to say we wanted to do this after the film came out, maybe a little over a year. And but animation takes a while. It's usually 4 to 5 years. A good 2.5 of that is how long the production takes. So there's a part of it. We were also working on a Broadway musical at the same time with our songwriters, so there's a little bit of that. But really, what's important to us is we always say that we don't release it till the film is ready, until the story is what we want it to be and the best we think we can do. And so you want to make sure you give it plenty of time to get as powerful as you can. And so we don't rush that. We make sure we don't rush it. And so we made sure we built this one the same way.
How Disney is used to do this kind of things. Yeah. Why this is very special for you?
Well, even with the first film, a lot of those characters, there's so much of us in all of them, even in Sven. I mean, so I think it's so personal to us, all these characters. It's not who they are, but their journeys too, and their journeys are something that's very important to us. And sometimes we watch our kids grow up, and it's kind of their journey too. So I think we're so connected to these stories because they're so personal to us.
It's very emotional. We can see that through all the trailers that we already watched. Peter, what was the most challenging thing in this to make it happen?
Well, I think the biggest challenge always is story, getting a story that we feel is worthy of telling, and then that process of finding the story. And we always say we like it when we get to the point where the story starts to tell you what it needs to be, and then we start trying to keep up with that story. That happened on the first movie, that's happened on this one too, and we're excited to be at this point where story has wrapped, and we get to share it with the world shortly.
Yeah, this is not just for kids, this is for everyone, for all the family. What's the message that you want to transmit?
I think Frozen is always, the world of Frozen always about the power of family. We looked in Frozen 1, we looked a lot at sort of love, like the power of love over fear in the context of when you're dealing with someone who's different and differences, and I think we're doing the same, but we're looking at it through change. So sort of love versus fear, that wrestle, but with change, with stepping into the unknown, with the new, the obstacles that life throws at you. We all know happily ever after is a fun idea, but the next day something might walk in the door. So I think being able to tackle it that way, but again, always through the lens of family. I think that's kind of at the heart of Frozen.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. That's why we all are in love to this movie. Thank you very much, and I want to ask you if you can invite to all the people from Paraguay to go and see this movie.
Hello, Paraguay!
The filmmakers, us, we hope that you all go see Frozen 2 when it's in theaters soon.
Thank you.
Era un lugar mágico, pero algo salió mal. Desde entonces nadie puede entrar o salir.
¡Wow, papá! ¡Eso fue épico!
So in 2016, we took a research trip to Finland and Norway and Iceland. And we had a really broad idea of what the movie might be about. Chris and Jen, the directors, were, they wanted to explore where did Elsa's powers come from. And thematically, we had some thoughts, but when we got there, we were really struck by how, you know, especially the forest in Norway or in Finland was, it just felt like a fairy tale. It really, you felt like there was all these stories about forest spirits and magic and as part of the culture. And when we got there, we got it. We were like, oh, okay, I could see. I feel like I'm gonna turn and there's gonna be something looking at me. It's gonna die. And it was very, it was really inspiring and interesting. And we got the fairy tale side of things there. Then when we went to Iceland, we had a very different experience, and it was very dramatic, and it was very extreme, and it felt,
But why was dramatic?
Yeah, well, because nature was so powerful there, and we just felt like we were at the whim of nature, and anything it wanted to do, it could just like crush you like a little ant anytime it wanted to. The wind was extreme, the cold and the hot was extreme. We stood on a beach that was literally black rocks and white water. It was like black and white. It was so extreme. And when we got there, I think it really started to feel like this is Elsa's world, you know, because she is, you know, such a big part of her is the nature. And she has this extreme nature power, and she's got the human side. So that was really interesting. It's a fairy tale that really reminded us of sort of Anna's point of view and her worldview. And Elsa, as far as like just more of a mythical character.
From your personal side, how you see this movie?
Well, I again feel like it's a story about maturation, and it's the theme that we explored with this film was, you know, how do you know when you go out into the world when you're 21 and 24 years old, you get out of college, how do you know what to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be? And then at the same time, how do I hold on to those relationships with the people that I love? Even if life pulls me, you know, away from them, how do I still maintain that love, you know, for those people? So that was a very sort of rich, interesting theme that we got to explore in this film.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Paraguay. I'm Mark Smith. I'm director of story on Frozen 2, and it would be my pleasure to invite you to come see the movie Frozen 2 on December 5th.
¿Qué haría yo sin ti? Siempre me tendrás contigo. ¿Crees que Elsa se portó algo rara?
Se portó como Elsa.
Escucho esta voz. ¿Una voz? ¿Qué significa?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Paraguay. How are you?
I was impressed for all the details that this movie have this time when you show us the picture of your daughters with the actual movie. My heart was like beating.
Aww.
It was so cute.
Actually, none of my scenes I can say anything about because it would be spoilers. But we do know that as animators, a lot of our team, if not most of them, actually do shoot reference of themselves or others or family or anyone in life, and they put them into their work. And what it does is it's not to copy the reference. It's to put those little truths in there to really bring the characters to life.
Yeah, I mean, when people act out their scene, they're stepping into the shoes of a different character, and they're trying to become that character. So they're not aware of these little things that they might be doing because they're not trying to do them. It's just kind of coming out. And those are the little bits of information that Becky's talking about. They pick up on, and they add those little things into their animation.
It's so beautiful the way that you put all your personal things into these characters, these scenes. Elsa is like empowering herself as a woman, and you talk about that.
For this movie, she's grown up a little bit. It's 3 years later. She's more comfortable with herself because, you know, she has her family surrounding her, and I think a lot of times power comes from knowing the things around you and being comfortable with yourself and your surrounding.
Yeah, tell me about the Wind.
The Wind character?
The Wind character.
Oh, the Wind character was a huge challenge. It was one of those characters that we had to collaborate a lot on with many different departments. And so, you know, usually it's up to animation brings a lot of the acting or the performance, and then everything else just kind of gets added to it. But this was more of a collaborative thing where Gail couldn't exist without the help of Tech Anim, our other department, or without effects, or without lighting, and all, you know, environments. All these things play a part in just creating every shot for the movie that Gail is in. So it was very like collaborative in the way that everybody sort of had to hold hands and pick the point where this department leaves off and this department starts until these moments are created. So it was a lot of fun because we always collaborate, but the level of collaboration on that character specifically went like, it was way beyond anything we'd ever done.
This is your art, and this is a teamwork. So how was that? So for you,
it's like releasing your children out into the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah.
Like how you feel.
Well, it's funny, you have a very intense time with everybody for, well, for us we've been on for quite a while,
Yeah.
but the team comes on and it's very intense and you're working hard, and then all of a sudden it stops and you realize, whoa, wait a minute, I want to do just one more scene, you know. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Yeah, we're hoping for a Frozen 3.
Yes. Cross fingers.
¡Corran a las colinas!
¡Saldré volando! ¡Te tengo!
El reino no está a salvo. Averigua quiénes te están llamando. Tal vez tengan respuestas.
Yo voy contigo. Ana, no. Disculpa, escalé las montañas del norte, sobreviví a un corazón congelado y te salvé de mi exnovio, así que lo dije, te acompaño.
Eso es normal.
Hi, Paraguay.
Hello, I'm Marlon West.
I'm Dale Maeda.
And please go see the movie in December 5th.
What's the difference between the first one and the second one? Well, like what gonna surprise us now? Like the second one.
That's a surprise. But I think you're gonna the scope of this one and the variation of the effects. This different world. It takes place outside of Arendelle, and there's new characters and new these elemental spirits are all new, and they all come with a different challenge. So I think people are going to be really surprised to see how big the world of Frozen.
What was the focus, the technical focus?
You know, for that dark sea sequence, the part that was really challenging is, you know, because is really having characters being able to, you know, interact directly onto the water and running on the ocean. In the first Frozen, you know, Elsa runs across the fjord, but that was just like across this flat lake. But when, you know, having to be able to deal with like this churning ocean that with these like, you know, 50-foot waves and everything, you know, that was very challenging. And also Elsa kind of creates this magical ice bridge that kind of tears apart. So, you know, all these things interacting with the ocean that's so turbulent, I think that was, you know, very challenging.
That horse, can you tell us about that horse? Like water with water.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are the kind of challenges you have when you work in a building like this. Where like you have a water horse, but it exists underwater. What does water look like underwater? So it was a big challenge for both technically and creatively, and even conceptually for everybody to get their mind around what this horse looks like. And because you have to be able to see him under the water, and he acts. He looks at Elsa, and his ears. You know, horses have a relatively small kind of areas where you could actually see that their emotions, either their ears being pointed one way or another, and their eyes kind of narrowing. Especially the Knock, who doesn't whinny, he doesn't make a whole lot of noise, and make a lot of faces. So we had ears and eyes to kind of deal with, and all those things we didn't want to distort very much and warp, you know, to make it look like he was made of water. We needed those things to remain rather solid, and his legs to remain very solid. He needed to look very regal. We didn't want his legs to actually wobble, and so most of the things that made the Knock look like water were his tail and his mane that would actually, you know, underwater look like almost like an underwater vent, and above water it almost looked like a fountain. So those were the areas that we were really able to kind of put a lot of effort into to kind of remind viewers that this horse is made of water.
¿Dónde estamos? ¿Cómo entraron al bosque?
La niebla se abrió para nosotros.
¡Imposible! ¿En dónde aprendiste magia?
No puedes seguirme dentro del fuego.
Entonces, no corras al fuego.
La magia es muy atractiva. Sin ti, podría perderse en ella.
¡Protejan a Arendelle a toda costa!
Creo en ti, Elsa. Más que en nadie o en nada.
What's the color difference from the first movie and the second movie? Because we have a very big difference.
Yes, we do. So the first film, obviously everything is in snow and ice, so that whole palette was well established and well understood, and when we were asked to go into the autumn hues, that presented a whole new structure for us and a whole new set of challenges to get our characters to read. It diverted from things that we were familiar with. We had to relearn how to do some of our costuming and characters over these environments. At the same time, we wanted Frozen 2 to speak back to Frozen 1, so we didn't want to take on a whole palette that looked foreign to Frozen 1, so we took all the principles from Frozen 1, the jeweled palette, and we migrated it over to autumn hues. So our autumn hues are cranberry reds, there's purples in there. Instead of the bright oranges and yellows, they were more skewed towards a cooler, redder palette, which was more conducive to Frozen 1 film.
Elsa dress. You say you want to keep the let it go side in this movie. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, we all know these characters. For both Elsa, Anna, and all the rest of the characters, audiences really know and love them, and so we want to make sure that we're retaining the things that we know. And I think what we were talking about earlier was that Elsa goes through this transition and let it go in the first film, and once she does that, she sort of becomes her true self, and she builds her clothing out of ice at that point. And so we wanted to make sure in reintroducing an audience to her that she still feels like the same Elsa that you knew from the first movie. So we want to make sure that there's some element of ice built into her kind of at all times, so that we're not making a huge leap and not bringing the audience along with us. So ice is very, very important to her, and she kind of gets to have that on her own, whereas the other characters are sort of more built into the world of Arendelle and more true to the materials that they would be able to have in Arendelle.
These sisters are very important for you. They are like your daughters.
Yeah.
So can you tell me something about that, how you feel about this?
I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to watch them grow up and take on issues and deal with bigger sort of life problems, and how do they come out of those, and how do they rise above them. Yeah, you're on that journey with them, and you feel proud that they're going through this and succeeding.
Yeah, it's an honor to be a part of it, an honor to have any kind of influence or guidance in what they go through. Is just, you know, it's a huge responsibility, and it's a wonderful process.
Yeah, we can see her as like warrior, so girl power. Yes.
And in high heels.
Yeah.
Yes,
she can do it all.
Yeah, the boots with the high heels are so good. Very detailed. And the scenarios, different scenarios with different colors too.
You know, color for me, when I work out a color script on a film, it's all about telling the story and the narration and the narrative that the directors are trying to communicate. So when I sit down with them, it's a journey of finding words that evoke emotion, and emotions have color. So as we go through and decide what emotion that the characters are feeling, or the emotion that the directors want to tell the world at that moment, then I'll go back and I'll try to figure out what colors speak to that, and then I bring it back to the directors, and they tell me whether I've hit the mark or not. But words and emotions have color.
Emotions, that's the art talking.
Yeah. Please come and see Frozen 2.
Everything.
Please come and see Frozen 2 on December 5th.
It's going to be beautiful and it is going to be a fun ride.
Thank you very much.
Una duda. ¿Esto de ponernos en peligro letal se volverá una costumbre? ¡Ah! ¡Ah!